Any other person? Hello. By way of recap, please let's give your submissions and let's continue. What did you hear last week? Hey, hello. Please,
Yes,
can you
sir.
hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah. So what did you hear last week? Last week's lecture, the entire time. What did you remember we discussed?
Okay, sir. My name is Felix. I'm from Enchi Center. I remember that we looked at direct and indirect procurement, and we said direct procurement involves acquiring goods and services that are directly used in producing an organizational final product or services. And then we also said that indirect procurement also involves acquiring goods and services that support operations but are not part of the final products or services.
Okay, that's 84. That's good. Felix and Justice have given us what they heard last week. Thank you very much. So today we'll be looking at adding value in procurement and supply. And you realize that we last week we mentioned clear distinction between purchasing and procurement. And then as part of the things I remember, we said procurement is a strategic item, while purchasing is a traditional operational item where sometimes we just buy things for the uh, to satisfy organizational needs. But procurement goes beyond just acquisition, but then partnership with suppliers and all of that. So today we'll be looking at the operational objectives of procurement. We'll be looking at added value, how we add value, and what value addition um, uh, seeks to explain. And then we'll also look at the five rights of procurement, the um, rights, the right procurement, right price, right place, and all other um, the right quantity as well. We'll look at that as well. And then other considerations when it comes to um, procurement activities. Miss Mavis Nyamiche, kindly mute your mic for us. Getting feedbacks. Hello, Mavis. Okay, thank you. So in business environments, and I remember last week we created a distinction. We created a distinction, and we're talking about what functions of procurement is or are, and then the procurement function, what it is. So as part of that, we came to a conclusion that procurement function is the unit or uh, the department, for lack of better word, the department of procurement in an organization. So basically, you realize that in every business or in businesses, the procurement function is one of the most critical functions because it is the unit that provides the organization with every other thing that they need. Again, it is also the lifeblood or the bloodline of every organization in our daily lives or even in our homes. Some way, somehow, our mothers are the procurement officers of our homes because they buy the things we need, they buy the food stuff for the kitchen and all that. So that is just about the procurement function. Companies are also, or manufacturing organizations spend nearly 50% of their revenue when it comes to purchasing. So the amount that, and it happens in our homes as well, the amount that we receive from various at the end of the month, most of the spending goes into purchasing, goes into payments of things in and around us in the house. So when parents receive their salaries or when organizations receive some revenues, they pump in these amounts into uh, or as parents, when you receive monies, you pump those things into purchasing of various organizational needs in the home setting, various um, um, home-based needs. So we come back to the differences between procurement and purchasing. Realize that last week we mentioned that in its broader sense, procurement includes Marciana. Your hand is up.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please, I was having network issue and I have a place now. But one of my colleagues just spoke with me. He said you were mentioning the sentence that you are handling, which he didn't hear. What?
We haven't mentioned the sentence yet. We normally do that at the end of the class. So when we finish with the lecture, I'll ask I'll ask of the sentence and um, know which sentence joined and which didn't. Thank
Sir,
you
please,
very much.
sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Please, is Sokoto Center here?
Please, are you
Sokoto
asking
School of
me?
Hygiene, Bo.
Are you asking me or you are telling me you are here?
I'm asking, are they supposed to be with you?
According to my my list, they are supposed to be with Dr. Thomas Akofi and not in my class.
Sokoto Center is supposed to be with Dr. Akrofi.
Yes,
Okay, thank you, sir.
welcome.
Sir, please, what about the WA center?
Can we do this in when we finish the class? But what center is with me? Yes.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, so let's look at the differences between procurement and purchasing. So in this broader sense, we mentioned that procurement includes the entire processes by which all classes of resources, I mean the facility, material, services, the particular projects are obtained. So it is basically going through every other process in the acquisition of goods, works, and services. And then also we see that the function of procurement is a unique function and it differs a bit from the function of the purchasing is a unique function. It differs a bit from the that of the procurement function. So they may have similar or same objectives, but one has a wider domain, as the procurement has a wider domain over that of the purchasing. So with this, let's look at the objectives of the purchasing function. So, the classical definition of the objective of purchasing is to buy materials, basically that, and serve. Buy materials and services at the right quality, right quantity, right place, and from the right source at the right time. Basically, that is what um, the purchasing seeks to achieve. But then, when it comes to procurement, that's the strategic function where they seek to even build relationship with suppliers, develop suppliers at some point for the things we need and all that. So that is just a distinction in there. However, in general management terms, the objectives of purchasing are to support organizations or companies with their operational activities, um, making sure that these are not uh, interrupted in any way, or these purchases help with or help with the uninterruption of flows of materials and services. Again, it helps organizations to buy competitively and widely. Or as purchasers, or the purchasing function also develops good vendor relationship or supply relationship. Realize that when you talk about purchasing, they're likely to use vendors, but then procurement also use suppliers. But then these words are used interchangeably as and when they may happen or they may come. So to achieve, again, it's help to achieve maximum integration with the other departments of the firm. So you realize that procurement function or the purchasing function normally functions greatly with that of the finance. So the purchases are made, the finance make the payments on behalf of the organization. So there are a number of them. At your free time, you can go through them. So now we look at outsourcing. So in a typical procurement or in a typical purchasing uh, function, there's the concept of outsourcing. And this concept basically talks about um, how organizations delegate their non-core activities under certain contracts to external service providers, and then for a long-term relationship basis. So for example, the core activity or the non-core activities are activities that organizations do not really prioritize or do not really see as their main activity. For example, a banking organization or UMB, JCB, they see their main core activity as providing some financial services. People need money, they need a place to invest, a place to save, and all that. Their core mandate is away from things like, cooking or providing security services. So sometimes the money that they transport from banks to banks or branch to branch, these monies are kept in bullion vans. And these bullion vans, the banks may not necessarily own them, but then they can outsource such activities of protecting the money in movement. And that activity, or having to outsource, is basically what we are talking about here. So the concept of outsourcing is delegating a non-core activity. So for example, you see yourself as one who may not necessarily be able to cook, or you are very busy and hence cooking is not like a core activity of your organization. So then let's give that contract or that what do you call it, that activity to another or an external service provider to provide such an activity on our behalf with in or within or under a contract. So basically that is what we mean by outsourcing. Organizations routinely contract with specialists. Normally, these non-core activities may be a core activity of such service provider. So you give them the opportunity to also provide you with such services. And such as some of these services can come in like cleaning, authoring, security, facility management, IT, recruitment and training, accounting, legal, transport and distribution, as well as procurement at some point. So there are some organizations that are just into procurement, but then they provide services of, having to develop a procurement or engaging in procurement activities of various organizations on their behalf. So some of the potential advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing. So let's brainstorm. What are some of the potential benefits of outsourcing as per what we've discussed so far? Anyone? Anyone? Yes, Vivian.
Please, I think it will help an organization to concentrate on their core activity.
Exactly. So if you are okay, Justice, we'll come to you, but let me just talk on Vivian's point and then. So if you are an organization that's
Okay, it also increase efficiency
okay, efficiency,
because
how?
in this case the organization is focusing on 8 core activities, so it gives them a concentrated mind, and with this efficiency comes in here.
Okay, so you realize that just thank you. You realize that Justice and Vivian's points are two separate points, but explained as one big umbrella point. So you realize Vivian said there's an improved or focus, health organizations to focus on what they are up to. And then Justice mentioned if they focus, then invariably they are going to be efficient with what they are focused, because their focus is on one thing and their attention is not disrupted. Any other? Daniel?
Okay, sir. So it makes them to save cost. So let's say instead of them to hire a whole or to ensure that let's say this security you are talking about, they'll employ and then train them and all that, they outsource. So it saves them cost.
Okay. So you also save cost. Or the cost, I mean the cost you are likely to incur in even hiring people. Realize that if you give these services to other service providers, for example, if not for anything, you will save cost in having to pay for people's snit and all that. Because if you hire a worker, you are likely supposed to pay for their insurances and other things. But then if it's a service provider you are using as an agent, then their um, local firm or their mother organization would have to incur some of these things. That's also a good one. Justice, your hand is still up. You want to make a point, or that's Felix? Felix.
So, and again, it also saves time. That is, it reduces the time spent on non-core activities as well.
Exactly. So, just as Felix mentioned, it reduces the time spent on non-call activities. Your time is also saved. So let's look at some disadvantages. Now we move to disadvantages. If you give some of these activities, non-core activities, to a different organization, what are some of the um, risks or disadvantages? Daniel, for
Okay,
that
sir.
justice.
So let's say we've hired the security company to come. They can come in and maybe they'll not be expertise like you think, and they'll come and just do anything for you. But if you have them and you training them and you assessing their activities, that will improve more than you outsourcing. So in a way, what is demanded, get like that. So there's low in productivity in a way.
Okay. So sometimes, if I get your point, well, it's basically trying to say that when you give, I mean, your non-call activities to people, you sort of give them the autonomy to express or do anything that they want. But at the end, they may, I mean, some of the things that they will do is likely not to meet your expectation. Okay. Any other, Felix?
So I think there will be confidentiality risk. If
Breaches.
like sensitive information may be exposed to third parties or external parties.
Okay. So, I mean, you realize in our sourcing, you are likely to bring them in your space. So, in bringing them in your space, that is where breach of confidentiality also comes to bear. Justice, your hand was up, but it's now down. So, Emanuela,
Yeah, okay. Can I speak?
hello, please, one at a time. Just okay. Emanuela, you can come. Then Justice comes in.
And so I also think the quality of the goods might not meet the standard.
Okay. The quality of the good might not meet the standard.
Yeah,
How?
the production of goods maybe because you already have the your outsourced organization or anything. Maybe they might not meet the quality of the goods you want.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then Justice.
Okay. It may also incur some hidden cost,
Okay, how?
as the cost of going or entering into contract with the outsourcer.
Okay. So you may add some, I mean, hidden costs that you don't know. So they'll just tell you the whole cost of outsourcing this product is going to be 500 CDs. But maybe you are paying 500, but the actual cost was 300. So the 200 is a hidden cost you have in there. Notarius.
Hello, sir. There can also be communication barriers, especially with overseas outsourcing. Example like
Okay.
language differences, time zone differences, culture misunderstanding. All these can delay work and productivity.
Okay. So communication differences and also um, inefficiencies as a result of um, communication or overseas outsources. So you may likely outsource from an overseas firm, and then they may not provide things as you want because you do not understand your culture or your cultural um, values. So now let's look at the procurement positioning. So in making purchases, we use or to understand the positionings of procurement, we are likely to use what we call the project portfolio metrics or the project metrics. And I'm sure by now, just as you understand, do you want to say something or a mistake?
No, sorry, by mistake.
Okay, so by now, as procurement people, I'm very sure you know or you have heard of or have seen the crowded portfolio metrics before, right? So in a crowded portfolio metrics, it basically talks about two main factors, looking at the importance of the organization, the importance to the organization of the item being purchased, and then the complexity of the supply market. So for example, how important it is. The item that you are buying as an organization, how important is that item to you against how complex the market with which you get that item is. Please, I hope you get what we are trying to say. So based on the importance of the item being purchased, it is basically related to factors such as the expenditure on the item. It also can be linked to the profit potential through enabling revenue earnings and cost reduction. So the item that you are buying or the organization is in need of, how important is that item to the organization against the complexity of the market with that item you are buying? So for example, how is it difficult to even get that item in the market? So for example, right now, I want to eat um, Chinese sushi. Then I'm saying that if I don't get the Chinese sushi, it is very important to me. I need to eat it today. If I don't get it, something bad will happen to me. Then you realize that the importance level is very high. But then the complexity of the market, where will I get Chinese sushi at this point in Cape Coast? Where am I going to get that? So the complexity is also important. So these are the two things that help organizations um, uh, categorize items or materials with which they will need in their organizations. So basically, we have what you call four quadrants. So the current portfolio matrix is like this. We have a four quadrant matrix where we have um, these items in there. So in our four quadrants, let's look at um, the first quadrant where we have the non-critical or the routine items. Now let me read this to you. So at the strategic level, the project matrix is used to examine an organization's procurement portfolio. So at the highest level, this is what um, helps organizations use to understand or examine the procurement portfolio. Again, it's exposure to risk from the supplier disruptions. For the purpose of the syllables, it can be seen more simply as a tool for assessing what procurement approaches or types of supplier relationship are most important for different types of procurement. So how do you go about a procurement of an item like a non-critical item, a bottleneck item, a strategic item, and a leverage item? So basically, these are the types or the four types of items we may have based on the two things I've already mentioned: importance of the item to the organization, and lastly, the complexity of the market. Now let's look at this one. So for the non-critical items, such as common stationery or supplies, the focus will be on low maintenance routine to reduce procurement costs. So at arm's length approach, where vendors manage inventory or blanket ordering and all that. And then in uh, in the type of procurement, you are likely to use the e-procurement solutions by just having a routine order online and order. So procurement management is achieved by monitoring the expenditure against regular support received. But before that, let me show you something else. So in the book or in the model, they phase to or they failed to give um, they failed to give, what do you call it, the highs and the lows against these uh, let me look for this for you. I hope you can see my screen. So basically, this is the 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 Cardiff portfolio metrics. Let me get you this one. So realize that when you look at what we have here, we have some high lows by it. So in a typical procurement setting where we have a high um, the importance of the item is very high, but then the the supply or the complex how the complexity of the market is low, then you're likely to see that that item is a leverage item. These are you with me? So in a routine item, you're likely to see that when the importance of the item to the organization is rated low, and then the supply market or the complexity of that market is also low, then you're likely to call that a non-critical or what we call like a routine item. So in here, it is at when these two categories we mentioned, the importance of the organization, the item to the organization against the complexity of the market is both low, then you say these items are non-critical or routine items. So for bottlenecks, it is when the importance of the organization, the item to the organization is low, but then complexity of that item in the market is also high. So, for example, there are things like you see sometimes your laptop will have an issue. Maybe the battery will have an issue. Then you realize that the importance of the battery being to you is low. This is because you can use, let's say, when there's light, you can still use the laptop. So it may not be a pressing need for you. But then, very, if you want to replace that particular battery, it is very, 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 very difficult to find such batteries. So I have a friend who has a lot of things on his laptop, and then he uses an Acer laptop, and then the laptop, uh, the battery got, I mean, I don't know whether it's defected or the battery ran down. So he wanted to now change the battery, and they said, oh, this one when he goes to the market, he doesn't get. So realize it is very complex to find such items on the market. But then importance of that thing to him is not too high because he can still use the laptop anyway, even without the battery, because he can just plug it when light is on. So anytime he wants to access those of some of the things, then he goes to it. So such items are classified as the bottleneck items. So such as proprietary spare parts or specialized consultancy services, as I mentioned. Sometimes even your car can spend months at the mechanic because there's this particular spare part that you need to get. In here, it could cause operational delays, as I mentioned. Your cars could spend more times at the shops. The procurement priority will be ensuring control over the continuity and security of the supply. So here, the procurement function or the procurement objective is just to control the continuity and security of such supply of such items. And then we move to the leverage items. At the leverage item, where the in here the importance of the item to the organization is high, and then the supply of that market or the complexity of that item on the market is also low. In here, it is very important to you, and then also it is not so difficult to find in such markets. So with the leverage items, such as the local produce, I mean, things you produce locally by a major supermarket. So the procurement priority will be to use its power in the market to secure the best prices. So basically, the leverage items are things that are likely to be linked with things in in a competitive market. I mean, you need the item, but then it's not really. Alicia, can you mute your mic? Okay? It nearly spoiled my ear. Felicia, hello. Thank you. Yes. So in a leverage item, the item or in a for leverage items, the items you are important to the organization, but then also when it comes to the importance or complexity of that item in the market, that is also low. So it's something that you can find averagely almost every time on the market. And then the items are also important to you. But in here, the procurement function uses its power to try as much as possible to get the best deal out of the market because that item is, I mean, readily available in the market. And then the last thing we look at is the strategic item, where the importance of the procurement item to the organization is high, as well as the supplier complexity of the market of that item is also high. These items are termed as strategic items. They are the core process bought by like a laptop manufacturer, such as uh, maybe your laptop. Then you see the motherboard. It's very difficult to find a motherboard to replace. It means you would then have to buy a new one of a new one. It is the importance of the item to the organization is high as well as complex in the market. So there is likely to be mutual dependencies when it comes to such investments. So here, procurement people form some level of partnerships with suppliers to enjoy the uh, the benefits of such items. So basically, that is it for the project portfolio metric. So if you look at this table or there's a four quadrant matrix here, we have the leverage item here, the strategic item here. This I hope you can see. So the leverage item, the non-critical items, and then bottleneck items. Yes. So for leverage items, we said the importance is high, but then the its complexity to the market is low. So you realize when you look at the supply, we see here as abundant. It's abundant in supply. For strategic items, the importance is high and then it's also scarce on the market. That's why at the supply section, we have natural scarcity. For non-critical items, is also abundant because Hamdia, the run is up. Hello, Hamdia. Was that a mistake?
Yes, sir, please mistake.
Okay. So for the non-critical items, we also have supply in abundance. And then for bottleneck items, as we said, it is production-based scarcity. So there are certain items that, they are bottlenecks. The, it is scarce on the market, but they are not really, really important to the organization. So with that said, we look at added value or what is value. So please, I ask the class, what is value? How do you understand the word value? As procurement people, I'm sure you've heard this over and over and over again. What is value? Felix.
Yeah. So when it refers to add value, we are simply looking at adding benefits to a product or a service.
Okay. So adding some form of benefits or some form of additions, innovations to a product or service. Vivian, your hand is up.
Sir, please, value is how worth the thing is.
Exactly. So Vivian is also saying how you place some form of worth on a particular item. Zainab.
Sir, please, it's about the benefits the product is, or how beneficial the product is in terms of maybe monetary gain or something.
Exactly. So you realize that Vivian talks about the worth, Zainab talk about the benefits that the product gives, and then Felix also talks about um, how you see or adding some form of innovation to a particular product. But I realize that in all of these things, the end goal is to satisfying customer needs. So in effect or in essence, customers define value. So it is basically the uh, how customers see a particular product or the worth customers place on a particular product is what we can be seen or can be termed as value. So Michael Porter, the competitive strategist that we know in business going from other classes, he developed or he argued that organizations' competitive advantage ultimately comes from the value they create for their customers. So if an organization will enjoy some benefits, then those benefits are linked to or linked with the value they are, likely to give to their customers. So in other words, an organization creates value by performing its activities more effectively and efficiently or efficiently than its competitors. So what UCC will do better than UEW would make the students come here rather than go to UEW. Also, customers purchase value. So by comparing an organization's products and services with others or with those of its competitors. So the customer purchase value is basically comparing the prices that you have or your organization have with that of their competitors to know how best people are likely to choose yours over the others. So the term added value that's essentially refers to the addition. So now we come to Felix's definition: addition of greater value or worth to a product or service, basically adding new things to a product or service to satisfy consumer needs or consumer demands. So basically, that is what added value is. So with that, now we come to the value chain and the value systems. So in a typical value chain or in organizations, I mean, Michael Porter also mentioned that we have what we call the value chain model, which depicts that the various primary and secondary activities of an organization through which value can be created. So he mentioned or he categorizes activities within organizations between two categories, having primary activities and secondary activities. And he mentioned that in these two activities, organizations sort of add new things, as in the case of Felix's example, add essential additions to products or services, and in the end, they communicate or they give value to customers. So are these are these categories we mentioned that the primary value activities are grouped into 5 areas, where we have the inbound logistics, basically looking at items that organizations receive to add value onto. So for example, inbound logistics or inbound activities are related with how we get raw materials from our suppliers or from the outside world within the organization to add some form of value. So in the value addition is what we call the operations or operational activities, which is mainly concerned with transforming the inputs or the inbound inbound logistics. In the case of the inbound, if we have materials coming in, raw materials coming in, how we receive it and even how we keep them until we add value to it. So for example, how organizations receive fruits to transform into making food juice for the final consumers is basically for the inbound and operational activities. Then we come to the outbound activities. So the fruits being received is the inbound logistics. The operational activity is converting the fruit into finished or into fruit juice and then packing them in bottles or in paper packaging is the operational activity. Then the outbound will also look at having to distribute that to the customers or the final consumers. And in doing so, there are also some services that covers all these activities, and these services include the use of equipment repairs. If the equipment go bad, people repair them. The parts supply and maintenance, training, and all that. All these are part of the services. And then we come to marketing and sales. So after these services, then there's a need for us to market and sell that product. So the marketing and sales are strategies that help in enhancing the visibility of the targets or the appropriate target group or the customers that we want to serve these products to. So that is it for the primary activity. Then we move to the secondary activity, which is basically like the support activities in helping move that raw material pineapple into converting that into a final product for the consumers or the customers. So in these secondary activities, we look at the firm infrastructure, which refers to the systems and assets of for planning, financing, quality control, and management. To the infrastructure of the firm, how the firm relates, how the firm, systems are in place to help solve various problems. Then we come to the human resources, which are also all the activities involved in recruiting and deploying people. Basically, the human resource, having to deploy people within the organization in making these primary activities a success. And technology, receiving operational activities and all that are directly linked with technology development. Technology is going up and up each and every day. So the equipment use and all that, all those things can be classified under technology. And then lastly, we look at procurement. So as you know, procurement involves all the activities required from the inputs for primary activities. So that's where, as procurement people, sourcing all these things, coming into getting the raw materials to, or the inputs to the inbound. So basically, getting the raw materials to organization is what we mean the inbound logistics. So we have the primary activities and the secondary activities. So the primary activities having to deal with inbound, operational, outbound, marketing and sales, as well as services. Then the secondary activity also comes to bear looking at the infrastructure of the firm, human resource, technology, and then finance, as well as procurement activities as support or secondary activities. Did you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so then we move to So we move to the five rights of procurement. If you remember, we mentioned that in procurement and purchasing, it is mainly the acquisition of goods to satisfy consumer needs. Following these R's or these rights, I mean, having to deliver the right quality of good, the right quantity, right place, right time, and then also the right source as well. So basically, right quality, quantity, place, time, source, and all that. So basically, these are the five R's we'll be looking at. For starts, we are looking at the right quality. What is quality? How do you determine that? Oh, this product I bought is a quality product. Yes, Vivian.
When we talk about quality, we are talking about fitness to the purpose which you want to use the item for.
Exactly. So is the item that we are looking for fit for purpose? If it is fit for purpose, then we are likely to see this is a quality, or this product is a quality, has that quality feature. So accurate specification of the requirements and quality standards. So if I say I want this type of product and you give me exactly that type, it is deemed a quality product because you just gave me exactly as I needed. And then we have a supply and buyer side quality management as well. So where we look at how the suppliers view quality, and then the buyer, you the buyer, how you view the quality. So the one that you requested for against what the supplier delivered, you compare these two, and then you are likely to conclude that your product is of quality. Then we move to the right quantity. What is quantity? Obtaining goods in sufficiency to meet the demands and maintain the service level while minimizing excess stock. So in 400, you learn about lean management and all that, having to reduce waste and then having to reduce excess in production. So that is it for right quantity. So out of that, we can demand some forecasts or have demand forecast, inventory management, and stock replenishment systems. So that is why I always have this thing I say that the moment you are short on salt in your kitchen as a procurement person, then it means you don't understand the principles of quantity and the principles of warehousing management and all that, because there's always the need to replenish. So, for example, if you are a procurement, so there's a group of people or women in procurement is a thing that I mean people really talk about. So if you're a woman in procurement or in your kitchen, you are short on salt. Who know it, and now can say, hey, I don't have salt, then it means you are not practicing procurement well. Yes. So you should always have that demand forecast and then also understand that, I mean, inventory management and replenishment. You know that, oh, this item should be replenished by this time. Or when it is going down, you know, and you get backups just so you are not short on products or materials at any point. So that is right quantity. Then we come to the right place. Then you come to the right place. So having good delivery to the appropriate delivery points, yes, packaged and transported in such a way to secure their safe arrival in good condition. And that is true. I like the last point of the safe arrival in good condition. Sometimes you buy food, you ordered for food, and then some of the delivery guys that will bring your food may not necessarily have these trunks at the back of their bikes. So they just put it in a bag at the or backpack, or that's delivery backpack. And then you see as they move, they turn, as they move and turn, your food will also be shaking. By the time it gets to you, now and only now. So it may be delivered at the right place. Sorry. So it may be delivered at the right place, but not in the right condition. You get it? Yes. So if you right place isn't just about the geographical location, but then also in a safe manner. Now look at the right time, basically delivering within the right time. There's this funny video I watched some time ago where someone was marrying, and then she calls the cake vendor and says, "Hello, Madam Cake Vendor, are you coming?" And the cake vendor says, "Hey, it's your wedding today." You realize that the cake vendor failed to deliver at the right time because they may not need the cake the next day for anything. So if you miss the right time, then you have missed it at all. And then the right price, basically securing all of the above at a reasonable price, or at a price that is reasonable, fair, as well as competitive and affordable. That is it for the right price as well. Also, there are some interrelationships or trade-off between the 5 hours. Yes. So sometimes you are likely to trade some of the things off. So it is also important to realize that the 5 hours are interdependent and interlinked. That's why when I was talking about the right place, remember I was talking about quality as well, it being in a very safe condition and all that. So sometimes you can't get one without the other, and sometimes you can't get both at the same time. There's this SHS teacher of mine who used to say that if you cannot enjoy twice, some of the things you can't, I mean, especially for the R's, some of them you may have to trade some off. So if you don't get the right quality, you are not getting the right quantity. And it's true. You are not getting the right quality, you are not getting the right quantity. Because sometimes, or because some items will be rejected or scrapped, and that is true. So for example, you bought 5 bags of cement, and then the cement came not in the right quality. For example, one of the cements was defected. You wanted 5. The moment one is defected, you are not getting the 5 you wanted. You now get 4. So it affects the right quantity as well, right? So at the right time, you're also not getting the right time because delays will be caused by inspection or reworks. So by the time they bring another one, then you're not getting the item at the right time or the right place, because poor quality does not present value for money or incurs cost. So in that same vein, you wanted 4. If you are not getting the right amount, then it means you are also not going to get the right price. So on the other hand, high quality goods take a longer time to specify, produce, or inspect. So to manage quality, and if you don't get goods at the right time, high quality may be irrelevant. Yes, it's true. Like the cake vendor example I mentioned, even if the cake comes and the cake is as perfect as possible, if it comes at the wrong time, if it doesn't come in time, then you are using the cake for a birthday, the birthday is just in a day. If the cake comes a day after the birthday, realize it will not be appreciated enough. So that is it for the various trade-offs. So the concepts of the right quantity and right time are also highly interdependent. I think we've mentioned this too. You can have large quantities delivered early in order to be sure to have sufficient items are in stock, or you can have some top-ups. So, for example, just as some of our parents or some of our mothers will do. Rather will tell you that, oh, if you are cooking, just cook a little bit above the normal, just so if you have an impromptu visitors, you can get some of the food for them. And that is it. You can top up quantities or deliver quantities delivered at the last minute as well when you have more accurate ideas of demand. So especially you know that in the house there are 5 people here. I'm cooking for you, but then if everyone is eating 1 cup, that should be 5 cups. So let me just do 6 cups. So if someone comes in, then that person can also have a feel of the meal you are having. So there are often trade-offs between right price and other rights as well. And then we have mentioned some of these things. Zainab, was that a mistake or wanted to read your hand?
Sir, please, I wanted to ask a question.
Yes, please, you can.
Sir, please, is quality not according to everyone's preferred standard, or
Yes. So quality is basically fit for purpose. You get it? The reason why we have one value is what is according to people's standards, but then quality is what is basically fit for purpose. So the item that we wanted, if you state in your specification that provide me this item at this time, or provide me this item, if I provide you with this item in code, then that item has met quality. But the value you place on it may differ. I hope you get it. But so sometimes we use quality and value interchangeably, especially at our social level when we're having conversations. So I bought an iPhone 17 Pro Max for 15,000 cedis. Then someone meets me and say, hey, me the better way there. Or I mean, to it, if I can't spend that amount of money to buy this, I would rather buy a parcel of land. You get it. Me the better iPhone, then me the better assassin. Then I tell the person the value I get from using that iPhone is worth it for me. So that is value. So sometimes when you're having a conversation, people tend to say, hey, quality power, you get it. But quality is basically fit for purpose. So if it serves you or gives you what you wish for or what you want, then it is a quality product or it is can be termed as quality. Zena, please, are you fine?
yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Welcome. So now let's focus or dive more into the right price and the right quality. So now we'll come to that Vivian. So the right price may be defined as the value of a commodity or service measured in terms of standard monetary units. So the value that, just as the iPhone example I just cited, the value I'm getting from it, I know that if I use that iPhone to maybe do something, maybe I'm a photographer, so I prefer high quality cameras, and then it is deemed as such. So if I pay that huge amount of money for such an item, then I am likely to um, then I'm likely to tell you, or I'm likely to say that, oh, this particular item is worth the amount spent. That is it for the right price. So in other words, price is what a supplier charges for goods or services. And if two suppliers quote different prices, a procurement officer can readily compare the relative value offered by each. Yes. So sometimes people even say that, oh, no boy, just say papa. I mean, we all do that sometimes, but it may not necessarily be so. So as procurement people, we tend to compare prices and choose the right price. So what does it mean to buy at the right price? The procurement firm will be seeking to make a profit. It may also be seeking specifically to control or reduce the cost. And that is what it means to buy at the right price. So you may want to control or reduce cost, or we may just want to make some level of profit. So the right price may simply be the lowest price available compared to the value that you get out of it. So there are a number of other requirements for right price, see from a supplier's point of view, as well as from the buyer's point of view. So price from the buyer's and the supplier's point of view. So what would be a right price for a supplier may not be a right price for a buyer. So for a supplier or a seller, to charge the right sale price will be a price which the market will bear. That is why sometimes when you buy something, you talk, oh, me cry me fan. And they thought, oh, me cry me fan 5 CDs. Yeah, the 2 CDs are 7 CDs. So she's just trying to tell you, or she's just trying to make you know that, oh, it is just 2 CDs profit I make from this. So for a supplier, he will tell you that, I mean, the right price is the market, the price that the market will bear. You get it. So the market prevailing price, the supplier will be a good price. Then also a price which allows the seller to win. It's also a price which allows the seller to win businesses in competition with other suppliers. So according to how badly it needs the business, and then the price being charged by the competitors. So we realize that for a right price to please give me a minute. Thank you. So a right price which allows the seller to win, I mean, businesses in competition with other suppliers. So we realize that in here, the supplier also wants to, I mean, enjoy some competitive advantage, knowing that maybe my suppliers sell this at this price. So if I also sell a little below this price, then it's a good price for me. So that is right price in terms of the supplier or the seller as well. Also, the last thing is the price which allows the seller at least to cover its cost and ideally to make a healthy profit. And this is basically linked with the price that the market will bear. I mean, sometimes they know that, oh, for this price, you people will take it. And then also they should also make profits. The whole point of businesses is to make some profit. So we don't want to end up in losses. So the price that they are likely to enjoy some profits out of it. Then the right price for the buyer to pay. In here, the right price for the buyer to pay will also be a price which the buyer can afford. I mean, that's why people see in quotes, or I mean, sometimes people say that when you are trying to say that, oh, maybe better iPhone, and maybe better Benz, maybe better this, the income, maybe see, then they tell you that's in here for casa. So if you don't have money and if you can't afford it, don't talk nonsense about it. Okay. I mean, sometimes when you get money, that's where you realize that some of the things you didn't want to buy. I don't know if you listen to Sarkodie. He says something. He says, Monisika, Namo nom sobolo, Beshamo Namo nom Pepsi. You realize that the price with which you are willing to buy or you can afford the product is also what buyers term at the right price. So the thing, we are all buyers, but then what I may term as the right price may be different from yours. So a price which appears fair and reasonable is also a representative of what value for money is in the buyer's eyes. Then also a price which gives the buyer a cost or quality advantage. Yes. So I mean the buyer would also enjoy some worth or some value for money or cost and sorry, quality advantage. They know that, oh, for this one, if I buy it here, it means it's a good deal because other my competitors or other people are buying it elsewhere for a higher price. And that is why we are infiltrated in this country with a lot of Chinese. They know we are cheap labor. So they will come and spend on us. And then lastly, a price which reflects sound procurement practice requiring suppliers to price competitively, negotiate skillfully, and recognize the difference between strategic, critical, and non-critical routine procurement. So the ones that understand the principles of procurement, we get to know that in procurement is the right price. In procurement, you're allowed to negotiate and then find a midpoint where we can all agree on things. So that is the right price for you. Then we look at what we call the price total cost, or what we call the total cost of ownership. Please, how do you understand this? It's also termed as the total acquisition cost. Depends on which one you may want to use. They are used interchangeably. Total acquisition cost and then the total cost of ownership. Please, how do you understand this? Yes, Daniel.
So total acquisition cost is the total amount of money spent in acquiring a product or a good. So being it, let's say you're a firm and maybe you want to buy these plants. So any expenses you make, being it the transportation, the installation, and everything that gathers to make it the total acquisition cost. If I'm right.
Basically, yes. So any other points? Any other? Oh, anyone else on total cost of ownership? What's that? Yeah,
Okay, I want to add to what my brother just said.
yes, please.
It is not only the cost, the immediate cost you incur, as in the price of the product and in the installation and all that, but the whole life cycle of as long as, let's say, if you buy a plant that is to power um, a warehouse or a company, as long as that plant is there, its maintenance and repairs and everything that goes into it, as long as that plant is there, it's all part of the total cost of ownership or the total acquisition cost.
Okay, so that's the only thing Daniel left in
Yes.
the definition. Yeah, so
Yes,
the
please.
realize that the cost of owning the entire thing. So it is I mean, we always use this example of the cost of having to maintain the product even after purchase is what we call the total cost of ownership. Yeah, so heating cost, maintenance cost, and all that, all these are incurred. So throughout the life cycle, it's like it's all for back. The total cost of ownership is not just getting her to marry or getting her as a woman, but then the amount of cream you will buy and all that, because to maintain the skin That's a whole total cost of. You should own her. So the moment you are owning her, you will pay. You are going to incur a lot of cost. That's just a social example we sometimes use with regards to the total cost of ownership. So there are some vital um, differences between purchases or purchase price of an asset. That's the sum you pay to the supplier to secure access or ownership, and its total cost of acquiring or acquisition of the of or ownership. So the total cost of ownership can be categorized under six headings, like the pre-acquisition cost. That is basically the cost you incur even before you acquired. So with the tobacco, for example, the pre-acquisition cost would be the the dates you go, the food you buy, and all that, the market research you do. So before even knowing when to get the item. And also, in business or in supply chain, the pre-acquisition cost has got to do with sourcing, preparation of tenders, having to appraise suppliers to choose uh, among them all pre-acquisition cost. Then the acquisition cost is actually the actual price you pay. So in the Obako, for example, the bride price you pay to a family. But before then you might have acquired some pre-acquisition cost already. Yes. So the acquisition cost is the one you give to the family. And the and the, and the operational or the operating cost has got to do with the labor, the materials, and the consumables. So basically how um, you use that particular item. So the operating cost is after you brought tobacco home, you need to, if you are sleeping in a single room, now you need a bigger space. That's the operating cost or operational cost. And then the maintenance cost, such as the spare parts or replacement, servicing, and all that. The tobacco will need more cream to stay more cocoa for you. Yeah, so the maintaining cost is the maintenance cost, and then also the downtime cost, such as the lost production, extra labor, if the asset stops working or fails to as it should. All those things are also downtime costs, and then the end of life cost. Hamdia, yes, your hand is up. Hamdia, your hand is up.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, please, total cost.
Please, you said?
I said the total cost.
Yes, total cost of ownership.
Yes, sir. So it means that until Obako call you divorce Obako call, or she's
In
no
fact,
more, you can never arrive to the total cost.
Until tobacco call leaves, you can never what?
Arrive to your total cost.
Yeah, that is the point. So the point is it's not on total cost. So that cost is total cost of ownership. So it's
Yes, sir.
basically the cost you incur in having a tobacco call in your house. So the pre-acquisition cost, as I mentioned, is the cost you incurred even at the beginning of talking to a tobacco call. Oh, I like you, I want to be with you, and all that. You go on dates, and then the acquisition cost is the amount you pay to a tobacco call's family. The operating cost is when Obako comes to your house, probably you are living in a single room. Now Obako is joining. So there should be an extra room. If Obako gives birth, Obako's mother will come and stay with you. All these things are part. So until the end of life cost, so until Obako dies, you keep paying because you own, in quotes, because you own Obako, you keep paying for, or you keep incurring costs until there's disposal. So in your case, until there is a divorce or but marriage shouldn't end in divorce. It should end, you said, till death do us part. So until one of you die, that is where we have come to an end of life cost of the particular product. So in the case of Obako, when you or Obako dies, that's where you stop paying. So that is basically on total cost of ownership. Johan.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my understanding of the total cost, if you permit me, So let's say a company buys like a rig from Singapore or a vessel from Singapore. Right. So the company that buys the ship from vessel, they will say that, okay, so you are using the vessel maybe to draw oil for 12 months, and that's 12 years or 20 years. The company that manufactured the vessel or the ship, they are going to take care of the maintenance and to the time to the 20 years lifespan. So that's the total cost of purchasing the vessel, right?
Yes, so you realize that with your understanding, you are trying to say that you enter into some form of agreement with the vessel producers that anytime there's a problem, they are going to maintain it. That is fine. But then we are talking about you as a purchaser. If you buy the vessel, it is you that is going to incur this cost. You get it? You are now going to pay for that services until that item is no more. So it's a note. It's not total cost, is total cost of ownership. So as the name implies, is the entirety cost of owning something. Just like buying a car. When you buy a car, you have to fuel it. That's because the price you use to buy a car, the fuel price is not part of it. You get it. So the actual acquisition cost of getting a car may be, let's see, 300,000 Ghana cedis. That's it. But then maintenance issues, fuel every day, changing of oil, all those things are classified as total cost of ownership, together with the amount you use, the 300,000 you use in purchasing of the car. So that is the total cost of ownership. So the total cost of owning the entire vessel you buy from Singapore is what we are talking about right now. Please, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's look at the rights quality. So for the rights quality, quality to an extent in the eyes. Hello?
Hello,
Yes, sir.
sir.
I hear you.
Okay, I had a bit of network challenge. So quality in the eye of is basically what we call in the eyes of the beholder, as in the case of Vivian. Was it Vivian? Someone asked that quality is something that we is in the eyes of the beholder, or is to the person that the buyer, basically that. Yes, but then just as we said, quality has got to do with the fit for purpose. So if that item is fit for purpose for you, then that is where I was using the value in relation to the quality. If that item is fit for purpose for you, then we can say it is a quality product. So I buy an iPhone for 12,000. Then someone tells me, hey, no, this is Kaka phone. Yes, it is quality for me. And then it's in my eyes, it is nice or it is good. It serves the purpose I need it to serve. That is why somebody likes tall, somebody likes short, somebody likes big, somebody likes skinny, somebody likes fair, somebody likes dark. Yeah, so basically, that is it for quality. So quality is in the eyes of the beholder, and Gavin developed some 8 quality dimensions, things that he used to classify as an item being of quality. One of them is performance. If it's fit for purpose and it is if it performs that particular item you need, then that is quality. Then we come to the features, value adding characteristics, and service elements. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
we
I
can
can
now
hear
hear
you.
you.
Yes. Then we come to the features. The features of the thing is value adding characteristics and service elements such as warranties and after sales service. So sometimes people buy things or items, and there are some after sales services. I don't know for you, but sometimes you go to a certain bank because of a particular beautiful tell. You go to a certain shop because of the how that person smells to you. So there are some features we also add to see things are of quality. So for example, some people goes to have some warranties or some after sales services. Oh, here if you buy air conditions here, we'll fix it for you for free. If you buy cement here, we'll transport it wherever you are going for free. All these things can also be quite. The third thing is reliability, the ability of the product to perform consistent over time. I mean, people are geared towards certain items or certain brands because of its reliability. Oh, when we the papa pound, the battery in the check, then we are likely to target as a quality product. And then also durability, the length of time a product will last without deterioration or damage. Oh, when you buy um, Toyota vehicles, it's good. It can keep. It's good for the African weather and all that. So that is durability. Also conformance, whether agreed specification and standards are met. And conformance has got to do with performance and fit for purpose as well. I mean, you agree that you are going to buy, or we agree with um, the supplier that this is what we want. If they give you that item, then it conforms. Serviceability, the ease and availability of service support. Sometimes the item you bought, if it gets broken, how easily can you get service, or how easily can you get it fixed? And then also the aesthetics. The aesthetics also look at the ambience on how appealing that item is. I mean, sometimes you buy things just because of how the package looks like. And then also perceived quality is the last thing. Sometimes it is not anything but our perception. Oh, because the price is a little expensive, then it's like hearing that, oh, you attended UCC, then you're a brilliant student. People say that sometimes, but it's not all students who attended UCC that are brilliant. That is perceived quality. And we come to specifications and quality. So for specification, as procurement people, I'm sure and I know you have, or you have prior knowledge with this. So specification is simply a statement of the requirement to be satisfied in a supply of a product or service. So is a document that gives detailed prescriptions and requirements of how items should be delivered, basically that. So we come to the rules or the terms. There are different terms. There are two types of specification. You have the conformance specification and the performance specification. The conformance, which is also a buyer detailed specification, talks about what the required products or parts must consist, and the quality product is one which conforms to the description provided by the buyer. So conformance, kindly provide us with something that can read. Then we give you, oh, we want to read while standing. We want to read without making a noise, or want to read while sitting. Then you realize that it is going in direction to some form of conformance. It's telling us that, oh, we want the type that when you sit on it, you drive around. And then also conformance specification also sort of deals with drugs and all that, like compositions of drugs or chemicals. So we want an item with, or we want a chemical or water with pH level at this level and all that. So that's the conformer. So the buyer, there's the buyer details, or the buyer details exactly what he wants, and then the supplier provides the same. Then the performance here, the buyer describes what he expects the parts or material to be able to achieve. And then in the execution of the function, it will perform and the level of performance it should reach. So you realize with this one, the buyer gives a description of the item they need. I want an item that can weed. That's it. So the person can bring you cutlass, can bring you what do you call it, a mower and all that. So I want an item that I can weed while sitting. And they are likely to bring you the mowers that we sit and drive around. Basically, that's conformance and performance specifications. Now let's look at the right quantity, which is also basically the right quantity is also basically one that varies. So if you receive a requisition from the operations manager to replace a worn leather, the right quantity is 1. If a bill of material for a customer order specifies 2,000 sub-assemblies, the right quantity is 2,000 sub-assemblies. So it's basically giving exactly what you are asked to provide. So in quantity or in substance, the amount you are supposed to give. So we have grouped these two rights together, right time and right quantity. Mostly buyers will have to work with users and inventory managers to establish optimum quantity and timing, because quantity sometimes works with time. So we have grouped these two together because quantity and time are in fact inextricably linked in buyers' decision making. Issues such as demand and stock levels are as much a feature of time decisions as they are of quantity decisions. So for example, if you are procuring supplies to cover demand over a long time period, you will need a large quantity. You get it? So let's say you want to procure supplies to cover a long time demand, for 6 months, especially when COVID came. People were stocking food in their homes because they were not going out. So realize that the time period with which you want to stock the goods is directly linked with the quantity of goods you buy. For me, opinion, I meet me in 6 months. Then it means you have to buy more. So you need more quantity against the time. That's why we are saying quantity and time are inextricably linked together. So if you purchase a small quantity, you will need to reorder more frequently, and that is true. So what is the right time for delivery? What is the right time for delivery? We have already seen that the right time for delivery depends to a larger extent on the buying organization's policies about holding stock. Yeah, so every organization has a policy on how to hold stock, and holding stock is basically having some form of inventory management systems where you can have like a small stores or like a warehouse where you can keep the item you buy in there. But if you are not buying, or if you are not keeping these items in such places, then you may want to deliver at certain time intervals. Yeah, so the right time has got to do with how organizations have policies about holding stocks and all that. So on the other hand, it is straightforward to say that goods must be on time, that is not late for a production delivery deadline. Late delivery deadlines set by a purchaser or late delivery by a supplier may cause the following problems. So production bottlenecks and stoppages as machines or sub-assembly lines wait for required suppliers. Again, costs associated with idle time. So sometimes there are costs associated with just having to sit in and waiting for items. So that can also affect the right timings. Then also um, late, so this should be late deliveries of finished goods to the organizations and customers. So I mean, when you deliver items to organizations at a later date, that can also affect how you do your things or how production is done. So let's look at understanding supplier lead times. What's the lead time? As procurement people, I'm sure you've heard of this. Yes, Vivian.
Lead time is the period between ordering until the goods gets to the final destination or consumer. So that period, that length between ordering and delivery. That's what I think.
Okay, that is great. So lead time is the period with which you order against the time with which the items are actually delivered. So basically, that is the supplier lead time. So the expression lead time has a number of, different meanings, and it is important for procurement functions to understand the true or total length of lead times to obtain goods. So when omitting demand management or stock replenishment systems, the internal lead time is the lead time for processing or for processes carried out within the buyer organization. That is the time between identifying of a need and the issue of a completed purchase order. So in a buying organization, lead time is also seen as the time with which you identify the need. Oh, we need 5 boxes of cement or 5 bags of cement for this. Again, the time with which an order is placed. So that's the lead time in regards to the internal or the buying organization. Now, the external lead time has got to do with that of the supplier, just as Vivian explained. So the total lead time is therefore a combination of when, so the for the external lead time, that of the supplier, when that is when they received the 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 order you place against when they supply, and then together total lead time is the combination of the internal and the external lead time, as Vivian explained, that it is between the identification of a need by the buyer to a delivery of goods by the supplier. So when the supplier received from the buyer against when the buyer delivered that particular item. So now we move to the right place. You might think of the right place as fairly obvious as long as you've given your supplier the right address, but it doesn't work like that. Sometimes it can be complicated. So the fact is, deliveries do go astray for various reasons, and buyers must take care to ensure that there is no misunderstanding about deliveries. So realize that sometimes, if you do not take care, you are likely to do things or you're likely to give addresses that will end up, affecting your delivery times being at the right place. So it looks simple, but it's not all that simple. So let's look at this thing. Do you ask the supplier to make deliveries directly to a number of different user sites, that's factory branches, or to make a single delivery to a regional distribution center? Which will distribute them as required? So realize that sometimes, because of these things, organizations may want to have like a regional distribution center where you just deliver to this point. We will then do our separate deliveries as they comes. But then if you do not take care and you ask them to deliver at different points, you may get some organizations having and then others not having. So that's it for the right place. So what kind of transport are you willing to use? That's also another one. So things can be hijacked, items can be hijacked, even on sea. So you also look at the transportation mode with which you deliver your products at the right place. And then now let's look at other considerations when it comes to adding value to procurement. Realize all that we've mentioned, looking at the 5 hours, are all linked to what we call the value addition or added value when it comes to procurement. So, what is the right procurement, the right supplier, right relationships, and then the right process? So, what is the right procurement, or what we call the right need? So the avoidance of waste is a key principle in adding value. So it is important that procurement respond to genuine and justifiable businesses needs in order to avoid the procurement of items that are unnecessary or unnecessarily varied. So for example, sometimes organizations may not necessarily need that particular item we claim purchase of. Sometimes it's just a want. Sometimes it's just a means of having to go a little higher than we have. For example, in your classrooms, in your various centers, the classrooms you have, if we have digital, boards, it's going to be very nice and interesting to have. You get it. But then, if we do not have digital boards and we have blackboards or whiteboards, there's no problem with that. You understand? So all that we are saying is that sometimes procurement people, we need to justify why we are buying what, and that is what we mean as the right procurement. So we should also know that the things that we are doing, or procurement must also understand and describe or specify in order to ensure that items that we are procuring are accurately and then are also match the business needs and fulfill their intended functions. So it's not just about making purchases. Purchases should be made in a right state. There should be justifiable reasons for these purchases. Who is also a right supplier, or what is a good supply chain? So selection of the right supplier will be crucial in achieving all the other procurement objectives. So all the other R's, or having to add value, all these things cannot be achieved without the right supplier. Because if you want to enjoy some benefits, it should come from, or if you want to enjoy the most out of these objectives, it stems from where you want to get what you are buying. Remember, as procurement people, all that we need to do, or all that we are doing, is to make purchases. So our purchases should be directly linked to that of a good supplier, the ones that are ethical and all that. Yes. So, however, there may be other considerations in other choice of a supplier, such as supplier's financial stability. Yes. To realize in choosing the best supplier, sometimes you may not choose a supplier because of anything, but because they are financially stable to provide you with what you want. And these are normally considered in government's contracts, because such suppliers would then need to pre-fund or pre-finance the project, and after that, government make payments. So if you give a contract to a contractor who doesn't have money to pre-finance these projects, then realize that the project is likely to be stalled. And then also compatibility with other buying organizations. Yes. So the supplier should be one that is compatible with others. So might have seen that, oh, he has worked with this one before, that one before, then we are likely to know that they are a good supplier. They also have potential for innovation and development. New things are coming. You should work with suppliers that are have this potential for new things. And above all, the suppliers that respect ethical business principles, corporate social responsibility, and environmental performance, labor conditions, and all that. So they may meet all that you have mentioned, but the moment they do not meet these ones, then they are not the right suppliers to work with. Suppliers that use children, suppliers that do not care about the environment. As procurement people, we try as much as possible to shun such suppliers. Then we look at the right relationships. I mean, building relationships with suppliers and even other businesses must come in handy. And these rights, I mean, relationship basically talks about having to create some level of competition among suppliers, some level of, I mean, having to leverage on your power sometimes having to have relationship at arm's length, other times having to have co-destiny relationships and all that. And I'm sure you are reading relationship management and then you have seen and heard some of these things. I mean, there are types of relationship you build with suppliers, from transactional to the co-destiny. So with that, you get to know when and how to build relationship with people, yes, or with any actor of the supply chain. Then we look at the right process. That should be the last thing we'll talk about. So there is a wider range of approach to the procurement process and an even wider range of specific procedures which may be used for particular procurement categories and exercises. So depending on the factors such as nature, the value of the item to be procured, the system and policies of the buying and supplying organization, the structure and regulation of the supplier market, and then the relationship between the buyer and seller. The right process will be generally be the one that complies with the organization's policy and external regulations, as well as the appropriate circumstances and context, which reflects good practice and sound procurement disciplines and ethics. So realize that all that we have mentioned, the right 5 R's, and then the other considerations of rights, procurement, rights, relationships, and all that, it is climaxed with the right process. And the right process, all that we are talking about is that a procurement practice that is sound on discipline as well as ethics, and then have some level of efficiency and cost effectiveness, and above all, adding value. So the procurement process should add value in the most efficient way, upholding discipline and ethics in its processes. So basically, that is what the 5 R's and other considerations of procurement is. Basically, that is what we did for today. Do you have any questions for me? Did you have any questions?
No, sir, on my side.
Okay, any other?
No, sir.
Okay, so if there are no questions, then let's call it a day. But before that, let's look at the various centers we have. So we have Riverview. Riverview, are you here?
Yes.
We have STU.
Sir, we are here.
Okay. Utech.
Okay, we are
here.
Utech, you are here. UCC.
Yeah, yeah.
Johan, are you from UCC? Hello, Johan, are you from UCC?
Oh, yeah, from UCC, yes.
Okay. Wa? Wa? Vivian, from Wa?
Sir,
Vivian, are you from?
yes, Tatiana, what here?
Okay. Marciana, kindly mute yourself. Okay. And then Fafraha.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
are
sir.
here.
Okay. Emilia, nice meeting you.
Thank you, sir.
Because I've not seen you before.
Oh, okay. I joined last week.
Okay. Fafraha. Okay, so thank you for having me. There are no
Yeah,
questions.
and then Inchi.
Inchi. So Inchi has been added to Butek, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think yes, please.
Yes. So now but don't worry. When it gets to presentation, then you make me aware. But
Okay,
I
all
heard
right.
Inchi has been added to Boutique.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So if there are no questions, then we call it a day. But before that, by way of recap, what did you hear? Because when I wait for next week, if you want to ask, you won't mind me. By way of recap, what did you hear today? What did you hear today? Hey, so you heard nothing today.
So we looked at I had the project matrix.
Okay, Zainab.
Value, value and cost.
Okay, so value addition. Okay. Sakina too.
Sir, we learned about the 5 R's.
Okay. So the 5 rights of procurement as well. Yes. So the cardio portfolio metrics, please, you should have it at your fingertips. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you for having me. I'll meet you next week, God willing. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.